September 15th, 1978, my 25th birthday. It's a day I'll never forget. In a cold, howling rainstorm, I led the Appalachian Trail Challenge team into the history books on Mount Katahdin in northern Maine. Against incredible odds, we completed a 2,100-mile through hike of the Appalachian Trail, the world's longest continuously marked hiking trail. According to current statistics, only 1 in 4 hikers who try to through hike the trail succeed. 45 years ago, those odds were way higher, especially for us, because we were doing our through hike as a group, something much more difficult. But the main reason the odds were against us, the reason we made history, was because 6 of the young men and women in our group were people with special needs. One had cerebral palsy and learned to walk at age 7. One had a traumatic brain injury from a motorcycle accident and spent months in a coma. One spent 10 years in an institution, misdiagnosed as mentally ill. They all had learning challenges. Of the hundreds of hikers who tried to hike from Georgia to Maine that year, only 112 succeeded. We were 8 of them, the first group of young people with developmental challenges to ever through hike the Appalachian Trail. So, with that memorable accomplishment as context, let me tell you what keeps me up at night, 45 years later. Today, here in the United States, we have an epidemic of children struggling with developmental issues. And in the past 3 years, this has gotten exponentially worse. In October of 2022, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, also known as the nation's report card, released a report on proficiency in reading and mathematics. And the results are really sobering. Looking at reading ability in 4th graders, the report shows that only 32% can read at or above a proficient level. You know, in indigenous cultures, knowing how to hunt and provide shelter are essential survival skills. Imagine if only 1/3 of indigenous children learned how to do those things. One doesn't need to be a genius to realize that those cultures would be in big trouble. In our culture, we no longer depend on hunting and providing shelter for our survival. For us, the essential survival skill is the ability to read. Children who can't read by the 4th grade are in trouble in our society. Research shows that most will stay behind their peers, struggle academically, and are easily led into delinquency. The nation's report card statistics are shocking because most of us assume that these are well-functioning children, not children with special needs. So we have a really big problem. Let me introduce you to my friend Mackenzie. Mackenzie was born with hydranencephaly. It's a condition considered incompatible with life. She had a brain stem, but was missing most of her cerebral cortex, which is responsible for abilities like seeing and understanding language, walking and talking. Mackenzie's prognosis was grim, a 1-year lifespan in a vegetative state. Can you imagine being told that as a young parent? We saw Mackenzie just before her 2nd birthday, and she could breathe and eat, but she did both poorly. She was cortically blind, couldn't understand, was rigid, had seizures, and was often sick. Her doctors said she would stay that way. If children are to reach their potential, whatever that potential that might be, we must focus on two things. The magnificent human brain and the family. Your brain controls everything that you do. So optimum brain development and function are necessary for achieving your potential. A well-developed, well-functioning brain is also your best friend when faced with the inevitable obstacles and adversities that life throws in your path. The human brain is a great paradox. It's the most complicated thing in the known universe, and yet its development is governed by fundamental laws of nature. The early months and years of a child's life are critical because they determine to a large extent who that child becomes as an adult. When we look at early brain development, 2 factors stand out. First, the young brain develops at an astonishing rate. That development begins within 2 months of conception and skyrockets after birth. And by 2 years, the brain is about 80% of its adult size. Second, the human brain changes its structure and biochemistry in response to its environment, a phenomenon called neuroplasticity. This means that the brain grows through use, a lot like a muscle. And if we understand how the process works, we can easily harness neuroplasticity to get closer to achieving our potential. Given the importance of good brain development, you might wonder who is best suited to accomplish this. Well, based on 48 years of clinical and teaching experience, my answer is the family. Parents are the most influential coaches and teachers their children will ever have, provided first that they understand the importance of good brain development and their critical role in the process, and second, that they know how the brain develops and how to apply that knowledge in practical ways in their daily lives. We call this parenting with the brain in mind. Parenting with the brain in mind is not as complicated as it might seem. After all, parents successfully raised children for millennia until we professionals took over. Why are parents best at this? Well, because nobody loves a child more than his parents and his immediate family. We call this the anthropological reality of the family bond. The beauty of it is that it works with parents of any race, ethnicity, creed, education, or income. We worked with impoverished families in Venezuela for many years, and they were highly successful at accelerating the development of their struggling children, and not surprisingly, their other well-functioning children. Today, 16-year-old Mackenzie is alive and well. Once we started working with her, she began to change. Month by month, Mackenzie got healthier, her seizures reduced, and she developed more ability. Now, Mackenzie attends, get ready for it, Sully Buttes High School in South Dakota. She can see with her eyes and can understand spoken language. With the help of modern computer technology, she communicates her needs and desires, and she does all of this without a cerebral cortex, the part of the brain typically responsible for those abilities. So Mackenzie is a series of miracles thanks to her extraordinary brain. Who made Mackenzie's success possible? Yes, her mother and father. We empowered them with the knowledge, tools, and confidence they needed. And they added parental love, the most potent force in the universe. And those ingredients are helping Mackenzie reach her potential. And so we come full circle. In the language of the Penobscot people, who lived in what we now call Maine, the word Katahdin means greatest mountain. I've always loved that symbolism. My team and I dreamed of climbing Katahdin for over 5 months. We traversed 13 states, enduring extreme heat, humidity, freezing rain, snow, dense fog, and howling winds. We suffered through blisters and hypothermia and physical exhaustion. We dealt with mental and emotional stress, and we overcame all of it. Our belief in human potential kept us going. And in the end, each of us was forever changed. We all have our own version of Katahdin. You, me, Mackenzie. It's simply part of life. How wonderful that we have the gifts of the human brain and human family to reach the summit. If Mackenzie can reach her potential, almost any child can, including those children from the nation's report card. Sometimes, in my dreams, I envision a world filled with intelligent, capable, and compassionate children. And I imagine a world where those children are the norm, not the exception. Good Lord, what a wonderful world that would be. To make that dream a reality, we need an army of parents, grandparents, and friends who share our belief in human potential and our determination to prove it. So my friends, I'm recruiting volunteers, and I hope you'll join me. Thank you.